I'm stuck in Times Square. I can't get anywhere. I finally look at Steve. He's not keeping up. I am a fast walker. I am like, I'm in and out. I finally look at him and I said, I love you. I'm going to leave you. I'm booking it. I don't care how I have to get there. I'm getting back to the hotel to sit my ass in that hotel room so I can watch games. And he goes, fine.
Calm Down with Erin and Charissa is a production of iHeartRadio.
Welcome, everybody, to the Calm Down podcast. Erin and I are both lethargic. I don't want to speak for her, but I will with all of our... This one's drinking soup. I am coating my throat with a little sore throat Chloraseptic. Hanging on here.
I blame
What
Rich
is
Russo.
happening?
Rich Russo, our director. He's been nasally for 2 weeks. I got it on the way home on our flight on Thursday. I was so excited. Had the weekend off. My parents are in town. My kid, his first Thanksgiving, and I'm freaking dog sick. Rich Russo, this is on you.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. And now I've started this throat
Bruce.
thing, which is great because that needs to be gone by the time I sit down with Brock Purdy tomorrow. So come on.
Ooh, okay. Well, we've got a lot to get to today. So we're going to talk Turkey Leg Gate, Amazon Black Friday, first Black Friday game for me, coming from New York. My parents were also out there. We'll talk about all that and some Ryan's reaction. One fun segment that we have, our wonderful producer, Ryan. It is predicated off of a topic that we had in the pregame about living with your in-laws. And Ryan has done that. So we will get his thoughts on that. All right, girlfriend, start us off. You were, of course, working the famous holiday tradition of the Detroit Lions Thanksgiving Day game against the Packers. Of course, we know the Packers showed up in that one. Tell us everything and go.
Yeah, I mean, it was really a cool vibe because I think it was, well, I don't think it was the first Thanksgiving where I just felt like there was just so much buzz in Detroit. That was my 6th Thanksgiving in Detroit, and I've never experienced the fans just being this excited. Kevin Burkhardt had a fan sitting next to him on the plane that talked about how he goes to that game, every single year. But this year, the tickets were really expensive. So they were just so excited to be at home watching it together. So it was great. The scene was awesome. It was a really fun vibe. Jordan Love played unreal. The Packers defense and all the pressures that they put on Jared Goff was amazing. Had a great time. Did a sit down with Jordan, his first sit down right the day before. So that was great. And then I get home and the next morning, I haven't looked at my phone. I'm trying to be with my family, trying to feel good and all that stuff. And I see there's like chatter about Turkey Leg Gate on Fox. And I was like, what the hell is this? What's going on now? What's happening? Who did we piss off? I will say this on behalf of Greg Olson, who I guess is feeling some heat on the internet. Greg Olson had a turducken up in the booth. He plowed through it. He ate it. But that turducken was not supposed to be for Jordan Love. Since I've been doing sidelines for Fox on Thanksgiving, I've never given out a turkey leg. We've never had that. So there is no Turkey Leg Gate. There were many tweets once the boys alerted me to the people hating Greg Olson, which they don't. I say that in all, fun and games. People were saying, we need to know the answers to Turkey Leg Gate. There are no answers to Turkey Leg Gate. For as long as I've done Thanksgiving on Fox, which I think this is my 11th or 12th year, I've never given out a turkey leg. That's not because I ate the turkey. Let's be careful with what we all say. And that's not because Greg ate the turkey. Greg ate the turkey. But we weren't going to give out those. We just have never given out turkey legs. So America,
that's
Packers,
what I don't understand.
I know. And then I had heard the Packers are ripping Greg. Apparently we ruined Jordan Love's Thanksgiving. I think everyone knows I was raised a Packers fan until I had to be neutral. Jordan Love was fine. He seemed great. He got the win. He balled out, so he seemed good. But yeah, there was no conspiracy, guys. So sorry. I mean, I know we all love to think that there was. I've never given out a leg. I also have heard those legs don't taste good when they are given out. Like one player told me one time it was really waxy or something because they have to make it look really nice or something like that.
Make it look good.
Anyways, I don't want to start more controversy because we know where this could go off the rails.
Please don't.
Yeah, there was no Turkey Leg Gate. Greg Olson, he's not a criminal. He's not. Leave him alone.
For those of you that missed what Erin's talking about with Greg, so up in the booth, of course, they do the shot of the guys as they always do. It's Kevin, it's Greg, and Erin's told this plenty of stories about Greg to Greg while having him as a guest on our podcast of the savage nature of this Neanderthal and reaching his hand into bags of chips or bowls of chips, whatever. So he's up in the booth and he just goes roar into the turducken, and he looked like he's just a caveman. It was awesome. Yeah. I loved it, but I didn't realize that had turned into such a disaster.
I had no idea
when it didn't need to be.
No,
stop me if you've heard that before.
Yeah.
So yeah, and again, if you've never done it in the past, like if there's no precedence to support tradition, then now why all of a sudden is it? Because people like to get mad about nothing.
But
got it.
That was the whole thing that people were like, "Are you going to make a statement about what?" I have never given out a turkey leg. Of all the things I have been, called out for, it's not giving out a turkey leg. We just didn't
Today is not going to be the day.
No.
Here's something that's random. And Detroit Lions fans, I'm really sorry, but Richard Sherman had sent this on our text chain, which again, the internet, I have so many thoughts about the internet, good, bad, or indifferent. But in this particular case, how in the world do you guys know this? And who's keeping track of this? So this goes back. It's like a little graph thing here on the moon phase. Okay, right? So there's like a crescent moon, there's a half moon, there's a full moon. Whatever.
We just got a new moon last night.
Phase. Oh, we did?
Yeah.
Oh, God, I need to go sage or do something. I got to read up on what I got to do. I'll take it all. Light a candle.
I got all this mucus for the new moon. Awful. That's a bad sign.
Is it? How do you know?
Well, this can't be a good sign. If the new moon is supposed to be a new beginning, and now I feel like I need a new beginning in my throat and in my nose.
Maybe it's a cleansing.
God.
Let me clear my throat. Okay, waxing gibbous is a moon phase. This dates back to 1966, you guys. Every time there's a waxing gibbous moon phase, the Detroit Lions have lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 losses when this moon phase falls on their Thanksgiving game. I don't know. Bring it up with the powers upstairs. I just thought that was interesting. So while everyone's worried about Turkey Leg Gate, you should be taking it up with the moon. That's the real culprit here, not Greg Olsen.
Free Greg Olsen. Free him. He is not a turducken stealer. He's not.
So wait, you get to go home and you land and you get to obviously you're not spending Thanksgiving with Mac, but you got to have it the next day. He's not eating solids yet, right?
No.
He's still
formula.
We're not there yet.
Yeah.
Okay. But what did you guys do for your because your parents are in town? You just do recreate the whole day?
Yeah, we just pretend it's Thanksgiving. We actually had it later at night because Jarrett had to work during the day. So we got everything prepared. And then Mac fell asleep before we even sat down at the table. So Mac wasn't involved in Thanksgiving. Baby. So that was fine. I was sick anyways, so whatever. But it was fine. We had a little place setting for him, which was really cute. My girlfriend made. And it was nice. Like I said, my mom and dad were there. My sister and her boyfriend. One of my girlfriends came because she didn't go home. And our nanny, and it was great. But yeah, the kid was fast asleep. Yep. So, bye, Mac.
Aw, yeah, so sweet.
And then
I love that.
You were in New York. We called you on our way to the stadium.
Yep, I was in New York for Amazon's first Black Friday game. So on we got there Wednesday, or was it Wednesday? Yeah, or Tuesday night. Wednesday. Did different whatever because we had all these different sets and stuff. So we did rehearsal stuff, had a great crew dinner. And I know you feel the same way, Erin.
Where'd you guys go?
I am so grateful for Amazon. We went to, it was just at a hotel, like a ballroom kind of thing, because Amazon hosted every single person that works on a crew. The truck driver, the audio guy, the, cameraman, anybody that was working Black Friday. We had a big, huge dinner.
That's so Taylor Swift of them.
Wasn't it? I know. It was very sweet. And it was just, I don't know, it was just a reminder that, and I know that you, the shots from your guys' game too, and just shouting out these people that, take time away from their family and miss these holidays, as you just mentioned, 11 years. But it was awesome. So got to do that on Wednesday with everybody. Then Thursday, everyone kind of broke off and was with their families. A couple of the boys came with me and my family for Thanksgiving dinner because they didn't have their families out there. But it was good. It was nice. And, by the time that we went around the table and we all said what we were thankful for, Kathy's in tears. Richard's getting up to give her a hug because she's like so thankful because she loves Richard. I mean, it was just like, it was one of those really sweet moments that I'm just like grateful for our football family. And then Friday, the game was awesome. I mean, look, the game itself wasn't necessarily awesome. I've never seen a Hail Mary turn into a 99-yard interception return for a touchdown. Like, it was like, it's such a, and I feel bad. It was like such a moment for the Jets where it's like, here's this last second thing that then turns into a touchdown to go the other way. And you're like, oh my God, it's a microcosm of our season. But so the game itself was a little bit more, one-sided for the Dolphins than I'm sure everybody would have liked.
Were they really pissed?
They weren't. I think it was, I don't know. I mean, there wasn't like booing, but I think it was just sort of like this overall frustration of what was happening. Kind of, I don't want to say they're done, but it looks like they're done given their record. But speaking of record, like what a difference a day or a game makes. Like yesterday at work, and I'm sitting there looking at these playoff scenarios. It's like you have the Rams winning, you had the Packers winning on Thursday, and it's like, oh my God, these guys are now in the conversation of potentially making the playoffs. Then you've got the Browns, obviously with the skid that they've been on and losing Deshaun Watson, and then Myles Garrett gets banged up yesterday. It's like all these different teams, and the freaking Steelers are still in this thing. And I'm like, the NFL is so. Maybe I feel like I say this every year, but it feels like this year more so than other. There's just such parity where you can't even disseminate like who's going to be in and who's going to be out without the exception of like those top tier teams. Yeah. It's crazy. The Broncos, their 5-game winning streak, they go from, 1-5 to now being 6-5. So crazy. But that's why the NFL is so great.
Yeah. I hate the injuries. It really sucks, but I agree. Yeah. Kevin and Greg said it best after our game. Do you think differently of the Packers now after seeing the way they went into Detroit and played the way they did? And they had about 30 injuries going into that game. No Aaron Jones, no Jair Alexander. Like, they were missing huge pieces to the puzzle. And good for Jordan Love, man. That kid, it feels weird to not see Aaron there on Thanksgiving Day in that uniform. I don't care how many times he'll, suit up for the Jets when he's better, but it still feels weird. But good for this kid. He is so even keel. Yeah. He doesn't go up or down. It's just, he's a real, wait for it, treat to be around. I'm excited for him. I'm happy for him. And yeah, football's nuts. Can't make it up.
I know. And you know what sucks? And this is just the world that we live in the immediacy as we sit and do this podcast, because Frank Reich was fired on Monday.
Oh, I hate that.
The Carolina Panthers. And you just look at this, the turnover, whether it's coaching or whether it's, Bryce Young, if he doesn't do it this year, like then he's not the future of the franchise. These guys have just such a short window to make an impact. And it's further highlighted by, we've talked about it before on this podcast, like the, surgence of a guy like CJ Stroud. It further highlights that you have to have this immediate impact. But I will say, even looking at like we were doing a Broncos Chiefs game, week 6, and post-game show, we're talking about, Russell's got all this money that he's owed on his contract. Do they just pay him out and let him walk and like all these things? And now we are sitting here as we enter week 13 and being like, hey, this is working. And when I sat down with Sean Payton earlier or last week for that sit-down interview, he was saying that he had referenced what Dan Campbell had done with the Lions, and he showed the guys that they started last year 1-6 and then finished the season, I think, winning 8 out of the last 10 games, whatever it was. But sort of like, give it a second. Like, there is a recipe. This will work. Stay with me. And it's obviously proved to work there in Denver. But
it's a long season.
So that was that. A long season. Yep.
Did you see
where are you this
Dan
week?
Campbell?
You've got a fucking monster.
Yeah.
You've got a monster game.
Before that, though, did you see my Dan Campbell live interview on the pregame show on Thanksgiving?
Oh, no, I didn't see that because I was stuck in the middle of Times Square, which I'll tell you about when you're done with that, because I can't wait to tell you the debauchery that happened.
Oh, no. Well, anyways, it was really cool and really gracious. Dan Campbell went live with us probably like 10 minutes before the game started. And he went live on the pregame and just talked about the excitement of the game, playing on a short week, yada, yada, yada. And then like I asked him, like, he drinks 2 venti cups of coffee a day, which I guess is equal to 40 ounces of coffee. But then he has 2 espresso shots in each. So 4 espresso shots. 40 ounces of coffee and 4 espresso shots a day. And I asked him, because it's a holiday, do you still do that? And he's like, hell yeah, still doing it. So I had to throw it back to Stray, who was out, in Times Square where you were. And I just said, hey, you used to play with Michael Strahan. Any idea, what was his intake on Thanksgiving Day? And Dan Campbell, in all seriousness, goes, I know I'm supposed to have fun and make fun of Strahan right now, but he goes, I can't make fun of a guy who made me a better player and a person for 4 years with the New York Giants. He goes, what he taught me on and off the field, I just will never forget. And I am great. And I am like, oh, I'm not even Michael Strahan, and I'm touched. They take this shot of Stray. I want to say this really quick about Dan Campbell. I know they lost the game. That has nothing to do with what I'm about to say. We had this segment on our game where we showed his introductory press conference. You talk about it being a long year, a long season, a long couple of years to get your formula in and for it all to pay off. Sorry, I'm closing my curtain. He had an introductory press conference that everybody made fun of. He talked about biting kneecaps off and wanting Tiger or Lions down on the field. And people just took swings at this guy and just said, what the hell? This doesn't, make sense. This isn't going to work out. Now he's obviously taken Detroit to another level, but he is one of the sweetest men I think I deal with in sports. There was a gentleman, a local writer for Detroit that had lost his wife, and he did a whole article about how it was the worst day of his life. And in a press conference, Dan Campbell took a question from him and said, my heart goes out to you. I really feel bad. I'm so sorry.
Oh.
Then there was a woman that asked him a question in a press conference a couple weeks later. He hadn't met her. He answered the question. He goes, I'm sorry, what's your name? And she said her name and said, nice to meet you. And he goes, it's nice to meet you. He is such a freaking gentleman. I love him. And I just was curious if you saw that part with Stray. But you were in Times Square.
No, that's
what
beautiful.
was happening?
Well, I had left after we had FaceTime. I went to a friend of mine. I just, not to glaze over this, because that Dan Campbell stuff, that's what matters, right? Like just taking the time, and whether it's a coach or whether it's anybody in an organization when they've got a million other things going on to care about the people around them. That's awesome. I love hearing that. I don't have a relationship with him, but I love anyone that's ever spoken about him. And going back to the introductory press conference real quick, and then I'll get back to Times Square. Stay with me, draw a map.
Go.
42nd Street. Is Nick Sirianni got just eviscerated for his introductory press conference.
Flowers.
And then he was going off about these things by his own admission. He was like, I was kind of all over the place, but I was nervous. And it was during COVID that he got the job. Mm-hmm. So he wasn't in front of his players. And anyways, when I sat down with him last year, he was talking about how he used that as an example and got back up in front of his players and said, hey, I'm going to show you this again. This didn't work, but it's the humility to stand up here and say, hey, this didn't work, but I'm going to be better because of it, and expected his players to do the same, that if they made a mistake or did something that maybe wasn't the best execution, that to be able to stand up and say, I'd like to fall on the sword on that one, run back down the court and say, my bad, and do it again. So anyways, shout out to those coaches who just are good people, independent of being great coaches. Okay, I'm stuck in Times Square because I go to my friend's house, or not house, they had rented this hotel room because my friend Bo, he's always wanted to see the Macy's Day Parade from
so cool
up above in New York. And I was like, oh, that's great. So he has a bunch of friends over, whatever. So we're watching that. Then I was like, okay, I got to go watch these games. So I'm thinking, no problem. I'm Columbus Circle. I'm not that far from the hotel. There's also, who needs to hang out in Times Square during the Macy's Day Parade? Not anyone. But it was close enough where I was like, oh, we could walk over to Yard House, no problem. Every street's shut down.
Yeah.
This street can't walk. This street can't walk. This street can't walk. This street can't. At one point, so it's just Steve and I. And now I'm like, I've got to go see the game. I got to see the game. I got to see Erin. I got to do this. And it's like, it's a big deal for me. And not that it matters to you, because obviously, we've done a million games over the years. But I always like to see your first hit, or like to see your interviews or stuff like that. To see what you're wearing and tell you're doing a good job. Anyways, so I'm stuck. I'm stuck in Times Square. I can't get anywhere. I finally look at Steve. He's not keeping up. I am a fast walker. I am I'm in and out. I finally look at him and I said, I love you. I'm going to leave you. I'm booking it. I don't care how I have to get there. I'm getting back to the hotel to sit my ass in that hotel room so I can watch games. And he goes, fine. I took off. I was like, I can't do this because
he can't keep up.
Move I can't do. I can't keep going like this and looking back. He's like, Charissa, I'm twice your size. I can't just dodge around the strollers and everything that you are. And I was like, fine. Then we're not going to get in a fight over this. We're just going to divide and conquer. I'm going this way You're going that way. We'll both end up at the same place and we avoid a fight. But I can't be looking through the crowd and hurting my neck every time I go back. And it worked out great. I get back to the hotel. I see my parents and they're like, where's Steve? And I go, I don't know, still probably Midtown. And my mom started laughing. She goes, you are your father's daughter. She goes, your dad does this to me all the time. My dad will just leave her. And he's like, keep up or else meet me wherever we're going because let's just avoid the fight. And it worked. So I missed your hit, but I saw the last part of the game. Anyways, word to the wise, don't try to navigate the streets of New York post Macy's Day Parade. You ain't going to get anywhere. Anywho,
I think I would shit if my husband left me, and I know he'd be pissed if I left him. But like, I don't understand why he can't keep up. He's a fit guy. What's going on?
I can't understand why I can't keep up because Steve's more patient than I am. So he probably is letting the 10 people go in front of him as opposed to me. No,
we have
exactly.
On.
I'm like,
we
move it out of the way.
We were doing family pictures on the beach yesterday, and I really loved doing it. But like, I also had Eagles Bills on. I don't have time like for 50 photos. I gotta go. I gotta see what's happening.
Did you get the shot?
I don't know. The one.
That was by the way.
What?
Go ahead.
Well, the one person that wasn't like freaking behaving was my dog. The infant was fine. The dog had the issue. It was like he was over. Like it was like so much going on. The birds, the waves. It was like, geez, just sit here and stay. Thank you. Stay.
Wait, I was going to say set the scene for me, but that makes sense. If there's like a million things going on, he's not going to just sit there.
But normally he's my
like,
prized child. No, because it was just supposed to be 15 minutes. We're in, we're out. It's like halftime. So I can go see the game afterwards. And it was like, oh my God, just sit.
Oh my God. Was Kendra jumping up and down with the stuffed animal for Mac? How is this going down? I need a visual on what's happening for the first family Christmas photo.
They were like, oh, this isn't even our Christmas photo. This was like, my parents are in town, so we wanted pictures with my parents and the kid and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and like family pics and all that stuff. So yeah, no, Mac was fine. Mac was like looking up, looking down, looking wherever. He didn't care. But yeah, the dog was just like, a bird, a seagull. Like, I was like, sit. Why are you itching? You never itch. Why are you itching? Stop itching. What's going on?
The itching. I always pick my dogs up from boarding and they're itching. And I was like, and I actually, hold on, stand by with the chloroseptic. I was like, what's going on over here? I was like, and then I felt like a bad mother. I was like, should I check in? Because I've been boarding them at the same place. They're the best. I really do love my dog boarding place. And they like get to roam outside and they have all these friends or whatever. But I mean, Erin, I probably haven't checked out the surroundings there in, I don't know, 10 years. So I was like, what's really going on over here? So I had them send me pictures and I was like, okay, I'm fine. I just felt like a negligent mother. You know, like maybe the place has changed. But no, they're fine. They're thriving. Itching, but thriving. Okay, wait. I want to go back real quick too. In our pregame, one of our anonymous, which was a smart move to do it as an anonymous individual in case your in-laws listen to the podcast, which if they do, good for them. And thank you. Anonymous asked, about to move in with my in-laws. Any advice? Welcome, everybody. Ryan, our wonderful producer to the podcast. If you're watching on YouTube those of you that are just listening, this segment is brought to you by Ryan because Erin and I like to rant, but sometimes it's very important to get the male perspective on things. In this particular case, Erin and I both had the same reaction to living with in-laws. We said, I don't know about that. Good luck. Have patience. Then Ryan says, I've lived with my in-laws. So go ahead, Ryan.
And I would just like to clarify before I'm killed. I think it's living with anyone. It's just hard. It's hard. Yes. It doesn't have to be your in-laws. It could be your aunts and uncles. It could be your grandma and grandpa. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Hey, look, speaking from experience, and my in-laws know that I love them. Just spent all weekend with them, but I will tell them straight to their face. It was hard. It is not easy, and we did it for. I think it ended up being almost a year and a half.
Oh, so, wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It was a while.
Why?
So it initially started with my now wife, fiance, and I at the time got engaged, and we were like, hey, living in Southern California, how are we going to make this work? We want to buy a house. So we were like, okay, this will be a short-term thing where you get out of your lease. We'll get in with your parents for a little bit and do it. Then when we were house shopping, we ended up deciding on a new development. So then we had to wait for it to be finished getting built, which is what took the extended timeline. Throw into the fact that all happened at the end
You're
of
adorable.
2019 and or throughout 2019 and then bled into early 2020. Oh yeah, COVID lockdown right at the finish line.
With your in-laws?
Oh yeah, we were having a time.
How'd you get through it?
Okay. There you go.
Yeah, so I would say you're definitely right with what you initially said, which is like right out the gate, everyone's got to have like their boundaries there. My wife and I had already been together for several years at that point. So like I was well familiar with her family. I definitely was not going into a situation as if like I didn't know who my in-laws were. So that helped. And then, yes, you definitely need to just lay down some groundwork. Like, hey, this is sort of how I operate. You obviously have to totally fit in with what they already got going on. So you have to understand that you have to make changes yourself. Like you're not going in there and running the show. You got to fall in line, but also know what's important to you and what you need to get done. And then we just always took advantage of any opportunity we could to do like a weekend getaway somewhere. Cause at some point
to leave.
Yeah. I mean, but seriously, cause you need your own time, you need your own space. Even as great of a relationship as I have with them, eventually it just becomes, we need our own private time, private space away from everyone.
Okay. Question. Was there 2 places to watch television?
2 places to watch television. Now that I think about it, no, there was only one. Yeah.
Oh my God. Communal TV watching space. Cause that would be my biggest thing where already, like, even if I want to watch something and Steve doesn't, I'm like, you can go upstairs, like go do a different area of the house and watch TV there. That would be how did you navigate that?
Sure. Well, again, and this is part of why it was great. Like they had known my career and my job and what I was doing at the time. And that was one thing that was sort of, I was like, hey, this is what it's got to be. If there's games on and stuff, like I'm there watching games, if I need to, obviously I could just pull up a laptop or an iPad if there was something that was going on. Yeah. But that was one thing that was very clear from the get-go. Like, this is how it's going to be. And they're like, yeah, sure. No problem. We don't care. And, her dad's a casual sports fan. Nice. So yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. But that was one of the early ons. You gotta just be honest about how things are going to go.
Wait, Ryan, now that we have here, I have a few other questions as it pertains to the male perspective.
Sure.
Wait, are we done with this topic? Because I was going to ask, how did it affect your relationship with your fiance at the time? A lot of whisper fighting?
Whisper fighting.
Mr.
Yeah, I mean, so there were definitely, they have a little bit of like a larger land, especially if you're Southern California. So like the big backyard. So if we were having a moment, it'd be like, let's just go out to the backyard, take a minute and get away from it all.
Just hash this out.
For sure.
Jesus.
So that definitely helped that it wasn't like a small confined space, that if we needed some privacy, you knew where you could go to get that.
For sure.
Can you imagine your in-laws in the house being like, they're in the backyard again. Look at them out there.
Hey, at least they don't hear what's happening, at that
exactly.
point. They can know what's going on. They're aware, they're going to be aware of things that go down. They've been married for 40 years, so they get it.
Good way to look at it.
Wait, I'm going to save this one for next week's podcast because I have got a story for you guys because my dad and mom obviously were in New York all year. They were there the whole time I was there for the last 3 days. And Steve was hanging out with them because if I had production meetings, I had other things to do, whatever, and Steve's with the parents. You guys, and I'm going to save it because it is worth getting into a whole conversation for. And Ryan, we're going to have to bring you back next week for Ryan's reactions because I can't even do it right now. And I'm going to ask Steve's permission to say this because now I'm asking permission for everything. But I overheard him say something to my father that I said, oh my God, it was crazy. And I said to him later, I go, why would you do that? And he goes, Scott and I are best friends. And I said, Jesus. I'm like, they are now so close. We're having those conversations. So that's a tease for next week's podcast because let me tell you, these two have gotten way too close for my comfort at this point. I'm like,
better than the alternative.
Oh, no. It's far better than the alternative, but you guys will appreciate the question or the conversation that was overheard.
And
right. So while I
was going to say, let me add this real quick. In a weird, not even a weird roundabout way, but going through that with my in-laws, now it's like, we can do anything. Like there's no uncomfortability about anything that ever happens. Cause when you do that for over a year, it's just like, we're good, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it definitely does have its benefits. It's not all bad by any means. It's hard. And you're going to go through some stuff to where you're like, you know what? Maybe we just move out and figure it out from here. And who knows what we're going to do with the house that we just bought, but figure it out. But once you get through it, you're like, that really wasn't that bad.
How long did that
that's
seem?
a nice silver lining.
Whoa.
Again, like I said, it felt not bad, but those last like 4 months was like, we're never going to get there.
Never out of here.
Yeah.
Or we're getting a divorce or what?
No, definitely not. But just that, like, with everything that was happening, you're just like, I don't know if I'm going to make it. This is like, we gotta get out of this house for a lot of reasons, not even just anything that necessarily had to do with them.
Oh my God. Okay, wait, real quick, because I mentioned how in Times Square, I told Steve I was leaving and I was going to go walk. We've had different conversations on this podcast before about like, would you board the plane without your wife? Or like, would you, different things, whatever. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about leaving your wife if it was like she's not walking as fast or you're not walking as fast?
Absolutely 0% chance that would ever happen. She
would
be livid. Oh, there's
really?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I know my wife well enough that there is no abandonment happening. Now, what I will say is
no abandonment.
Yeah, that is not.
We're not on a deserted island. We are in Times Square.
Erin, you get it though. That would not be acceptable. Not under any circumstances would that be okay.
No.
Yeah, the only time that's ever happened was we were traveling with some friends and we were on a tight connection. And I was like, I'll run through the airport to make sure that someone, exactly. That was the only time I was given verbal confirmation that I was allowed to leave during a travel situation. But what I will say is I could see myself being Steve. And if something was happening, I got no problem telling her, hey, if you think you need to go, like, I'll figure it out. Like, we're good here. I'm not worried about that.
Yeah, no, he didn't flinch. He was like, whatever. He's also the guy that sat in first class and was okay with me in comfort plus.
Yeah, that
so
also
let's just
would
go
not
ahead
be
and,
acceptable. Not even in the slightest would that ever occur.
I love it. Well, Ryan's reactions, stay tuned for next week. He's back for more. Also, Ryan's in charge of keeping us on track for time.
Yeah.
I think we're out of time. All right, perfect. Well, Ryan, you're the best. Thank you as always. Happy Thanksgiving. I know we have to stop saying that because it's now moved into the next week, but we didn't get a chance to say it last week to you guys. You guys are the best. Thank you for being loyal, loving listeners of the Calm Down podcast. Easy for me to say. We love you guys so much. And without getting into it, we got all your messages and just love you and thank you and can't wait to keep this thing going. And as always, submit all questions, comments, and concerns to the Calm Down podcast for next week's pregame. And stay tuned. We may or may not have a voice depending on that. And Erin's got a massive game. You got a massive game. You've got San Francisco and the Eagles. I've got Dallas and Seattle for my Thursday night game. And we will recap all that and much more on next week's podcast. By the way, calm down. Bye, guys.
Calm Down with Erin and Charissa is a production of iHeartRadio.
For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.